Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jody and today we are going to do a little bit of sewing. I am going to be making a pair of wrap pants, and this is the basic pattern for a pair of wrap pants, and you can measure it to your own measurements. So you measure your hips and you add a couple inches for side seams, and you measure the length and you add a few inches for those seams. It's basically a giant rectangle or two giant rectangles with a U cut out for through the legs. And how you wear wrap pants is you tie them from the back to the front and then the front to the back, and you wrap them between your legs. You'll see at the end how to wear them. I thrifted this tablecloth from the local Goodwill and it cost me $4, and it is a sturdy cotton. And so it's really easy to work with. It's not very slippery. It has no stretch, so it doesn't really run away on you. So here I am marking out and measuring my two big old rectangles, and then you will see me put the first one that I cut out on top of the other one so that I can pattern match to the best of my ability. Since it is a mandala in the middle, I wanted that to be at the waistband. So I took some time to make sure to pattern match the front and the back so nothing looked too crooked in the end. I'm a beginner sewer, and so I had to do a lot of trial and error through this process. That being said, I hope you enjoy, and let me know in the comments below. Do you sew in your free time? Are you wanting to learn? Because I personally am learning, and it's been a fun process, and in the end I'm really pleased with my results, and I'll be wearing these pants a whole lot from here on out. So this process took me 2 days to do, and probably, 4 or 5 hours total. So the bulk of the work I did on the first day, and then the following day I did the finishing details of the waistband and the ties. A few tips I have for people who are first learning how to sew is make sure to get decent scissors to cut your fabric, and make sure to iron all of your seams as you go along. It will save you so much grief later if you iron your seams. This is a very simple project. All but 2 sewing runs were just straight lines. So if you're looking for something really easy and really satisfying and fast, this is such a great beginner project. You can just Google wrap pants and you will find how to measure out and get the right measurements for you and make these. Right here I am measuring the middle of my pants. I have both the front and back panel stacked on top of each other, and I'm making the little scoop for the crotch of the pants. So I did mine 4 inches wide and 12 inches deep. Later I realized I probably needed to go maybe 14 inches deep. I prefer my pants to be a little more high-waisted, so I ended up adding inches with the waistband later. The waistband that I create later for the back panel is different than the pattern I found online, and I just sort of made it up as I went along. So here I am setting up my ironing board. Like I said, definitely iron all of your seams. It made it way easier to sew on the machine later. So here you can see a basic seam in the making. I've just rolled it over twice so that the raw edges will be sewn inside the seam. Wrap pants have open side seams, so if you don't want those raw edges fraying and showing, you just fold it over once, iron it, and then fold it over again and iron it, and then sew over that. That way your raw edges won't be out and about. So both panels have two side seams that I folded over and ironed, and then we're going to head over to the sewing machine next and just run a straight stitch down all four side seams. I have an old Fashion Mate Singer sewing machine that I thrifted for $20 a few years ago, and my fabulous husband redid it. He opened it up and oiled all the gears and made sure everything was working. And I love this because it has a little carrying case that clips on, so you just sort of grab it and go. And it's got a foot pedal, and it all packs right in there. There's even a little space where you can keep some thread and needles or whatever you need. So it's really compact. I couldn't believe my luck when I saw it in the thrift store and it was only $20. I practically ran out of there with this, and it works beautifully. So I would suggest, if you do see an older sewing machine at the thrift store and you're looking to get started, grab it if you can, if it's a deal, because sometimes the older machines are easier to learn on than the newer fancy machines that are digital. This one's completely manual, so it's all switches, it's all knobs and gears. Nothing on it is digital. So anyway, I totally scored with this sewing machine, and it's been really easy to learn on. At the start and end of each of your sewing runs, make sure to backtrack a few stitches before going forward and finishing off your seams, because that way the thread won't come undone. It was after side seam number 3 that my bobbin ran out of thread and we had to refill it. So there's a little clip of my sewing machine refilling the bobbin. So now that all 4 side seams are ironed and stitched, I'm putting right sides together of both of the pant panels and pinning the crotch in place. Next, we'll take that over to the sewing machine and just sew that U shape together. And the next step after that is going to be a quick little try on to make sure things are fitting properly. And then we will be folding over and sewing the front waistband and the back panel. In the back panel, I ended up adding 4 darts. Those are just little triangle shapes to give fabric curve, just because my backside needs a little more curve than just a straight panel of fabric. So it was about here when I tried these on that I realized when I pull it through my legs and I bring the back panel of the pants around my body, the front corners of the back panel were a bit long. So when I went over to the sewing machine to iron the waist seam, I actually sort of folded it in a curve so that it was longer up the center seam in the back and shorter at the side seams, if that makes any sense. And then I sewed along that to make that curve. And then later I trimmed out the excess fabric from each side. I folded over the waistband on the back before I added in the darts as well. So while it looks like it's curving the incorrect way, after I added the darts, it straightened that back panel back out. So think of it as I made the back panel like a rainbow. And then when I added the darts, it straightened it back out. So that when I added the waistband on later, everything evened out and there was no gaping at the center back. Well, there's still some gaping, but the ties kind of make up for it. Like I said, it was a learning process. So here I am trimming off the extra fabric of the back waistband. And then I will be measuring for the darts that I need to add to create that little curve in the back to fit my body. I ended up adding 2 1-inch darts on either side of the center seam, and each of the darts are 2 inches apart. So 2 inches out from the center seam, I added a 1-inch dart, and then 2 inches further out, I added another 1-inch dart. That just happened to be what fit my body best. I would suggest trying on your wrap pants and just sort of pinching the fabric to see what fits the best and what falls the best on your unique body shape. Okay, so the front I just folded over and made the front seam just a folded over seam, but the back, like I said, I needed to add some inches to it. So I draped out the fabric in that little curve shape, and then I traced that curve shape onto what I wanted to make my back waistband, and then I just extended that waistband out to become the back ties. So it's kind of this scoop shape, and then it goes straight out into a 1-inch tie. And how I'm going to attach that to the pants is I'm going to lay the pants out right side down, wrong side up, and then I'm going to match the waistband right side to wrong side. I know this is a little bit tricky, but my goal is to encase all of the raw edges from creating the darts and everything within the waistband. So right side to wrong side, then I'm going to flip it up and iron it down into that seam, and then we're going to sew that on. And then we're going to flip the whole thing over and iron it over and flip the edges under, and then do a top stitch along that. That way all of the raw edges that are inside the pants are encapsulated into the waistband / tie piece of fabric. So here's a better look at what I mean. So I sewed it right side to wrong side and flipped it up. Now I'm ironing down the waistband so that the raw edges will be inside by the time I sew the other side to the front of the pants. So next what I'm going to do is I flipped the whole thing over and I folded the waistband over to the front side. So now you can sort of see the waistband folds over from the back to the front. Now what I'm doing is I'm tucking in the seam and pinning it along the front of the pants and ironing that seam down so it's easier to run the sewing machine over. And then you will see how I incorporate the long ends to become the ties. So basically all I'm doing is folding in both raw edges of the ties and ironing that down, and then I'm just top stitching from one end of the tie through the waistband to the other end of the tie. So here I am folding in both raw edges of the tie after I have the waistband pinned in place and ironing it really, really, really good. You'll thank me later. Iron all your seams really, really good. Especially if you're going to be doing a really long run like this, you want them to stay in place and not budge. If you're using a more slippery fabric, I would suggest just pinning every square inch of the darn thing. Like I said, this is a very sturdy cotton, so it didn't budge a whole lot. And I start from one end, and I just sew straight across the tie, across the waistband, and then out from the other tie. It's just one long stitch. Lastly, I am sewing the ties for the front of the pants, and they are just two long rectangles. So a little trick I'm going to show you when we get to the corner here to sew up both ends in one stitch is you get to the corner, and I use my hand on the crank wheel to get it right at the corner, and you leave the needle down and you pivot the fabric. And that just sort of keeps it in place and gives you that really clean right angle. Now to attach the ties to the front of the pants, I'm just going to sew a rectangle on the tie to the front of the pants. I did a rectangle because I figure it'll be pretty darn sturdy. Since they are ties, they're going to be taking a lot of tension to hold it onto your body. If you need extra support there down the line, I may do an X in the middle of the box. But for now, I just sewed a square to hold it on and keep it really, really sturdy. And here are the finished results, and this is how you put them on. So step one is you take the front of the pants and you tie it from the front to the back, and then you shove all that fabric between your legs and pull up the back ties. and tie that from the back to the front. A close-up of all my little seams there and that back waistband and the ties. So yeah, you take it and you tie it from front to back. I use a bow, and then you pull it through the middle of your legs. A little awkward, but then you sort of tie it from back to front, and that's how you wear wrap pants. I am so happy with these. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you feel inspired to try a simple sewing project too. I will see you again soon.